Well, first of all, my name is Joshua Heston. I am editor-in-chief of State of the Ozarks. And for the record, this interview and these interview questions were developed in consortium among Liberty Lectures, Branson U, and then the public. And of course, we are filming here at the Hughes Brothers studio. And I'd like to welcome our mayoral candidate, Larry Milton. Larry, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, you were elected to the Branson Board of Aldermen Ward 2 back in April 2019. You've been a Branson resident and a Branson business owner for 27 years. You have been a commercial real estate broker since 1981 and are currently the owner and broker of Larry D. Milton Realty, LLC. You're also the owner of Main Street Marina, The Paddle Wheel, Landing Axes, and Main Street Marina Water Sport Rentals. Currently held positions include, of course, Alderman Ward 2, City Budget and Finance Committee, on the Board of Directors for M. Graham Clark Airport, trustee with the Lakewood Estates, and also on Ozarks Water Watch.
Correct.
Previously held positions include Branson Chamber Board of Directors, Branson Chamber District Marketing Council, Branson Area Lodging Association member, and Downtown Branson Betterment Association Board of Directors. And you have extensive knowledge about the show, theater, and lodging industry here in Branson, as you and your wife Leanne owned Branson Tourism Center / Branson.com. That has sold in excess of 4 million show or attraction tickets and more than 800,000 lodging nights here in town. Mm-hmm. You are a Marine Corps veteran, and you have a son and 2 granddaughters.
Correct. Very good.
It's great to have you here, Larry.
Thank you.
Now, as just jumping right in, how do you see Branson in 5 years?
Boy, I sure hope it's different. I think that I'm a very big supporter on our theater industry. I believe that's the horse that got us to where we are today. I'd like to see that continue. We had a theater study that supports increasing the theater industry and live entertainment. I'd like to see us all getting along a little better. There's no reason why we're not, why there seems to be a lot of infighting. And having the community more involved with City Hall.
What led you to become involved in politics in general?
Actually, that's a good question. I was asked when we had the last election. My wife and I were actually traveling during the sign-up period, and I received several calls from a lot of my business associates and friends. And they really wanted me to run for office. So we ended up cutting our trip short and coming back home so I could sign up before the deadline. I think I'm known to have a lot of passion and caring, logical thinking, and so it was really by support that encouraged me to get in office initially.
And so what led you to run for mayor in this particular race?
That's a good question. Initially, I signed up as alderman, and I was going to fulfill the alderman role, especially having a vote. When we got towards the end of the deadline, Cody Fenton signed up for my ward, Ward 2. I asked around about with a lot of friends who know Cody personally, and what they shared with me was Cody's a straight-up guy, married, 3 kids, mid-30s, legal background, conservative, Republican, and everybody I talked to said that we think a lot alike. And in my mind, that gave me permission to give up the alderman seat and run for mayor and see if we can really finally make some differences in the city.
And as a policymaker, what is your number one priority for Branson residents?
Only one. High priority for me is to repeal the mask mandate, for sure. That's number one.
So, over the last year, we have seen an increased division in our community. Uh, how would you address that as mayor?
What's surprising is it feels like um, this past year, it feels like I'm a conservative Republican on the board, and I'm interacting with Democratic, maybe more leftist thinking, and there hasn't been any continuity between myself and the rest of the board. I know that some that are that are running for alderman this year, if they get on the board, I'm confident they will. Then I think our city will see a huge change, positive change, with all of us working together.
So, give us an example of a past crisis that you've experienced, and how did you handle that situation?
Other than the masks,
Your call. Your call. We could use that one if you want to.
whenever there's a crisis, the city needs leadership. My form of leadership is I want to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am. I always like to listen to the consensus of all the different options and then make the best decision based on what I learned.
So, historically speaking, citizens who gain a position of power sometimes are in a situation to compromise their beliefs or assume double standards under pressure. How would you personally respond if you found yourself in that scenario?
What I've always done for the last 2 years. When I go sit on the dais, it's not about my friends, it's not about my business, it's what's best for the city. And there have been several issues come up where that I voted on that necessarily didn't help me personally. I took a lot of heat for speaking my heart, and the same with business. It's what's best for the community, and not personally what's best.
What is the distinction between setting policy by city administration and setting policy by city council?
Boy, that's a long answer. Personally, I do not think the city um, elected officials have enough role with the decisions made at City Hall. I believe that our city administration, our city staff, make a lot of decisions that have an impact on our community without getting input from the board. So the community, the only authority the community has is choosing who the elected officials are. They have no control over who's city administration, yet they deal with the city administration often. Um,
How do you plan to enable the community to combat our local drug problem?
well, drugs is a big issue, and what I plan on, one of my 3 pillars that I'm going to attack and take some action on is going to be I'm combining the homeless problem we have in Branson. That can has been kicked down the road way too long. The extended stay properties we have, and I think that ties directly into not all, but a lot of our drug problems in Branson. So by addressing that, I think it'll, to answer your question, I think it'll address the drug problem. Um, the homeless problem has been growing. We keep hearing about it more and more. There's no silver bullet to fix it. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to fix the homeless problem, but I can guarantee that we're going to take a bite out of it. We're going to start making some steps to start changing that curve from instead of increasing, that curve will start decreasing, and that in effect will address a lot of our drug problems.
According to a November 12th, 2019 article on KY3, the city of Branson is, quote, $170 million in debt. What is your plan in this regard?
Last update I had, I think we're at 192 million, but 170 million. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for a small town? I've been criticized several times by hearing the words, I don't understand government financing. I've been a successful businessman for years, and so I'm constantly reminded that I understand the business finances, I just don't understand government finances. I'm going to tell you, I don't understand government finance to the extent of how it's run today. I believe, being on the Budget and Finance Committee for 2 years, I have witnessed Branson does not have a revenue problem. I believe Branson has a spending problem, and that's looking at it as a businessman. And so instead of increasing the debt, I think it's prudent to live within your means and see just some of where the spending is going.
And we talked a little bit about this already, but according to the 2019 statistics from Christian Action Ministries, or CAM, in 2005, there were 2 motels with extended stay. In 2019, there were over 40. We had over 2,000 Branson residents living in extended stay in 2019, 500 of which were children. In 2009, CAM served 11,000 individuals. In 2018, they served 62,000 individuals. And in 2019, the area poverty rate was listed at 17.8%, but then Executive Director Elizabeth Hughes stated she believed the rate to be much higher because the census data did not include the weekly motels. What are your thoughts or your plans to address these needs?
Think about the stats that you just quoted. That is shameful. I think it's, I can't imagine a family living in an extended stay unit. They weren't designed for people to live in those units long term. The majority don't have kitchens, right? They're cooking off of hot plates. I think it gets into safety issues. I've been told personally from some that their kids were actually sleeping in the bathtub. That is just no way to live. And that really touches my heart, and we will take action on making changes in that world.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are forward step actions at work?
I'm sorry?
What do you think are forward moving actions that will work with that situation?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the first things I will do as mayor is I'm going to form a task force. I want to have a town hall meeting. I want to get all the experts that I can into a room, and let's first address all the facts. And then let's talk about what we can and cannot do. I believe when that's been attempted in the past, the reasons why we can't do something is just why this is just keep extending down the road. There are answers. They have to be answers. Some of them are going to be hard decisions. And there again, that's probably why we haven't taken action. So I'm going to surround myself with a lot of the experts, gather the facts, ask the task force to come up with solutions of what they would like to see. And I have solutions that I am going to introduce also. Mm-hmm. But this isn't going to be just a campaign promise. I will be reporting back to the community as we make steps in that issue.
What is your opinion of the homeless camps that are in the Branson area?
Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. Especially with some of the extreme weather. Right? We just experience a lot of the cold. Summertime, it's hot. Boy, my heart goes out to them. I don't think anybody should be living out on the streets. Those that tend to be living on the streets and in some extended stays, I believe that some of them are desperate. And if you or I were in their shoes and we were hungry, or we had children that were hungry or cold, I think that invites theft because they're desperate. So the way to solve some of that, the theft and the drugs, is to get to the root of the issue.
Programs such as the J-1 visa program bring workers into Branson. How do programs like this impact our community?
There's a lot of benefit with bringing in J-1 workers. Obviously, a huge problem all Branson businesses have is employees. We have more demand and not enough workers. So I support bringing in the J-1 workers. I also believe from a business mindset, supply and demand, if you want good workers, You have to treat them well. You have to pay them well, respect them, and that's how you keep the good workers. But there's obviously a lot of turnover, and our employee pool is very small to draw from.
Do you think that these programs could or should be changed in any way?
The J1 programs, Jonas is working on the J1 program and expanding it to some other programs. I would love to sit with Jonas and see what the city can do to help support that, bringing in more employees. Obviously, we need to look at their housing. Cities taken serious steps to provide more affordable housing for the workforce. But I think the city has a role in providing an employee base for our local businesses.
Branson is largely a seasonal economy right now. Should that seasonality be addressed as we move forward?
Absolutely. I've lived here a long time, and I've heard about, I was here when we started Hot Winter Fun and tried to extend our seasons. I'd like to get back to that. I think we've lost track of that Hot Winter Fun season. I don't think we've had enough emphasis on that. New employment. We have some businesses that are moving to town that will offer full-time jobs. We need more of those for sure. There's nothing we can do about the weather, but I think we can make the best of what we have. But there's so many here that are screaming for full-time year-round employment.
The continuation of Branson's tourism tax is currently on the ballot. What is your opinion of the Branson Tourism Tax?
I support it, and I'm going to encourage everybody to vote for it. I've had several come to me and question how that money is being spent. As you know, 75% of that tax goes for infrastructure, and 25% of that tax goes for marketing. So there's many in the community that question how are those marketing dollars being spent. There's many questioning how is the infrastructure money being spent. Bottom line is we need that revenue coming in. I think it's very fair to raise the question, how is that money being spent?
Mm-hmm. In that, what do we, obviously we know that there's 75% and 25%. What else do we know about some of those allocations?
As far as?
Where it's going, what it's doing.
Currently, the 25% for marketing, the city assigns to under contract with the CVB. And it's really the TCED and the MOC. It's funny, we can use all these, we use all the letters in the alphabet, but they're the ones that really direct how the money is being spent. In our recent contract that was just renewed, we put some language in there for the city alderman to have more of a role in where some of that is spent, because the city does contribute large amounts of money into that fund. There's some additional changes to that contract that I would like to see made. The infrastructure money comes in, and we use what's called priority-based budgeting in Branson. So we look every year, we look at what's the most important, regardless of the cost, but what's most important to the city of how to allocate funds, and then in turn the funds are allocated in those areas. I think it's a very healthy system. I think there needs to be a little more input in that process, but I'm supportive of that for sure.
What is your understanding of the perception of Branson worldwide, and should that perception be changed in any way?
Wow. When I moved here, Branson was the live entertainment capital of the world, and we were very proud to and boastful about that. Over the years, I've seen a few years ago, Austin, Texas started saying they're the live entertainment capital of the world. I don't know why we've given up on that tagline. I think that clearly is what separates Branson from any other destination in the country. A lot of destinations have lakes. A lot of destinations have beautiful mountains and hiking trails and kayaking and even some attractions. Nobody has what we have, and that's the live entertainment capital of the world.
If you were to sum up our cultural identity here in town, what would that look like?
Whew, there again, that's really changed. I think Branson used to be known as blue hairs, cowboy music, and a lot of traffic, right? We have a couple great shows, country shows in town. Clay Cooper's obviously one that we're all proud of. But the perception of what Branson was and what Branson currently is, we need to express that more to the visitors out there. I've seen surveys where the visitors come to town and they're asked after they've finished their vacation here what they thought, and a common theme is they were very surprised of what they experienced while they were in Branson.
Mm-hmm. How would you define Ozarks culture?
That has changed so much. Family friendly, helpful, supportive, caring. How many communities, when you're driving down the road and the traffic's backed up and a car's trying to get out of a parking lot and somebody stops and flashes their lights and lets the car out, right? After I was conditioned, when I moved here back in '93, a few years after that, I did some traveling, and I was going down a main road, a lot of traffic, cars trying to get out of a shopping center. I stopped, flashed my lights, and oh my Lord. I mean, I was yelled at and screamed at, and I was thinking, it's one car, right? So the friendliness here is something that we have. I believe it was stronger. But what represents the city of Branson is our employees and our residents. We're the face of who Branson really is.
Do you feel like cultural identity is important? And if so, what are some ways that we can retain cultural identity?
Well, when you say cultural identity, Branson is a tourist destination. So the visitors we want to attract, we want to offer them a safe, friendly, fun experience, building memories. I don't know, there's few things more important than building memories. And so when the visitors come to town and they go back home and share those experiences, there's a lot of the bigger cities, if you will, that are more into the numbers and the dollars. And that's something that the culture in Branson is. Obviously, the dollars are important, but I think the dollars come from that culture of being open and friendly and helpful.
What policies will you implement in the first year of your term?
We don't have enough time. There are repealing the mask mandate is important. Going back to the homeless, extended stay, and the drug issues are important. And changing the culture of City Hall. I'm telling you, I think the people have lost their voice at City Hall. We are servants. We are not the masters. When I say we elected officials. And we need to get back to that. We need to get to recognize the fact that every voice here counts. There's been numerous instances, meetings, where the community wants to share their opinions with the alderman, and currently they're given 3 minutes to speak. When they leave the podium, the aldermen are not allowed to answer anything that they brought up or any questions, so they leave the podium with crickets. How disheartening that is. And so it's no wonder why the community is losing their interest of coming to City Hall, because they were showing them in actions that their voice isn't important. Correcting that, obviously during a Board of Aldermen meeting, we have city business we need to address. So we can't take 4 hours up with listening to community input. So I believe that having some town hall meetings, more informal on different topics, sit down, listen to what the public says, have some of the staff and directors there to answer some of the questions. Some of what I hear, the public just doesn't understand why the city does some of the things it does. The community asks a lot of questions that, in my opinion, should be addressed. There's just no opportunity for them to address it. Every citizen in Branson deserves a seat at the table, and as the mayor, they'll have a seat.
As we're coming into conclusion, of course the election is coming up in April. What are some things that maybe we did not cover here that you want voters to know?
I'm a conservative, proud Republican. I strongly believe in liberty and freedom. I believe that we're adults. Our businesses are well run. I think that if the city would get out of the way and remove some of the shackles that we place on our businesses and our residents and get out of their way and just support them, they are the ones that make Branson go. Some at City Hall, I don't think, understand that. That will change when I become mayor.
Larry, we so appreciate your time today. Good luck on the race, and just thank you for being here.
Josh, thank you very much.